Masagui, I can't stand it when people talk like this. Let me tell everyone how you talk. Vaush, I really don't think you know enough about Iran's internal governance and regime methods for internal control. What do you talk? What do you? It's very presumptuous. I've covered Iran like multiple times through the years I've done this. Why not wonder, what am I talking about? By the way, the reason I said that Saudi Arabia is far more evil than Iran is because Saudi Arabia literally has a like point-by-point government plan to force global reliance on oil in spite of their acknowledgement of climate change, to the point of like appointing ministers and lying to foreign governments, threatening them, and like backing opposition candidates in developing Africa and Southeast Asia so that they continue to be reliant on oil for as long as possible, even though they know it's going to destroy the planet and they don't care. They're threatening the end of the world. Iran does what? They kill a bunch of their dissidents? Yeah, that's bad. I agree. Maybe if we, I don't know, reach out to the Iranian government and try to like introduce some element of Western influence into their government, indicate to their population that they're not completely on their own out there. Remember, the whole line that the Ayatollah uses to promote their like religious tyranny is only we can protect you from America. You know, the great Satan across the ocean, only we can protect you. And you know, considering the fact that all America is interested in doing in the Middle East is fucking invading countries and appointing like proxy leadership and like threatening Iran and breaking our deals with Iran and shit, maybe they have a point. Maybe the Ayatollah is protecting them from us. The only way we can actually end that cycle and develop like mutual reliance, both culturally and economically, would be for us to deal with them fairly, you know? But we are currently dealing fairly with Saudi Arabia, and that's not making them less evil, because the way in which Saudi Arabia is being evil is because it can trade with us. It's a different environment. Again, Iran isn't just a petrostate, you know? Vaush forgetting they were killing women for uncovered hair a few months ago. Liz following up. First of all, it was more than a few months ago. Second of all, that woman was interrogated and beaten to death by the religious morality police. They were not just executing people on the street. Third of all, I covered that in multiple segments on my stream, so I'm not forgetting it, okay? You're forgetting the details. Fourth of all, what does that have to do with what I just said? Why do you insist on doing this? Why are you arguing? What? I have been given the Ayatollah's blessing. Tie me to a missile and fire me at VGG. Why do you guys insist on doing this half like this fucking like patronizing, insincere? Oh wow, guess Vaush has forgotten about. No, I haven't. I remember everything. Like why? Just disagree. You can just disagree. Just say, hey, but what about X? Like why? It's not like I don't see chat. You're not just talking to other chatters. I look at chat. God almighty. Vaush, normalizing relations would definitely not cause less internal repression. It might lead to regional stability, but it wouldn't help the Iranian population. I disagree. When did we all give up on diplomacy? When did that become a thing? I missed this. I missed this boat. How would you know? Don't you think that like there might be a relationship between the global polarization, or at least the Western polarization of Iran, and them needing to rely on like a strongman Islamist government that protects their people, quote unquote, like promises to protect their people, like much in the same way that Netanyahu's regime has been empowered by, or at least the authoritarian wings within Israel have been empowered by the presence and violence of Hamas. So too is Iran empowered in its authoritarian elements, at least, by our meddling in the region. Like, what's wrong? Like, are you neocons? You all just want to sanction or invade or something? I don't want to invade Iran. First of all, we'd lose. Second of all, like, the death. You're wrong if you think the Iranian government will ever stop their war on women. Okay, literally, just fuck off. You are unironically doing the exact same shit that neocons did to Arabs back during the Iraq War. You're doing the exact same, like, these people will never. Your essentialization is disgusting to me. Nothing is will ever or is ever, okay? Governments change, people change, ideas change, values change. Everything changes, nothing stays the same. Right now, you're guaranteeing things stay the same because you're promoting the ideology that led Iran to the point that it is at right now. The idea of like, yeah, they're evil, so like whatever. Yeah, that attitude worked great with Cuba. It worked great with North Korea. It worked great with Kazakhstan. It worked great with Iran. It like, how many times must we make this mistake over and over again? And by the way, working great in Afghanistan, you know, where the only break to Taliban rule that it enjoyed was when we fucking invaded them. The moment we leave, the Taliban comes back up. Maybe it's time we normalize relations with them too. Oh, but they're bad. Yeah, being bad doesn't mean you don't negotiate with them. That's the fucking point of negotiating with you don't need to negotiate with your allies. They're your allies. You negotiate with Your enemies, or at the very least, countries you're not in good terms with. What else is the point of engaging? If you do not make room for diplomacy, you leave room only for war or constant regional instability. We fought with Vietnam and now we're besties. It's possible, chat. Yeah, Vietnam after the Vietnam War. Like we've engaged in good relations with Vietnam, and now they're both quite a bit more powerful and more liberal, and we're on good terms with them. Like there's value in diplomacy. Would you apply this logic to Russia too? Yes. The problem right now is that like Russia's government is literally currently warring with Ukraine, which means that like the environment there is definitely distinct. But yes, like absolutely. How much did our sanctions work after Crimea? Did they work? Did we stop the invasion? We sanctioned them after 2014. Did they work? Can I email you to have a talk on this? No. Vaush, I agree we should negotiate with Iran as the lesser evil, but having relations with authoritarian countries doesn't seem to make them less authoritarian. See China and Russia. For one, Russia doesn't count. We didn't. We did horribly to Russia. The shock doctrine or the shock therapy, we influenced them in a way that led to the most negative outcomes. We could have engaged way more with Putin back when he initially became leader. You know, we made so many mistakes with Russia that it's like laughable how badly we fucked that up. And with regards to China, I would argue the opposite. I would say that our engagement with them is the only reason they haven't become like a hard regional power to the exclusion of the rest of the world. Like I would say that, you know, given the material circumstances with China, the fact that we engage in diplomacy and economic like collaboration with them has kept them, because I think otherwise, man, if Nixon hadn't opened up talks with China, if we hadn't been getting along with China, like following the end of the Cold War and trying to like engage with them, I'm pretty sure that they would have just like turned into another Russia, but they haven't. They haven't. They may be an authoritarian government, but there is a very, very, very strong westernizing trend. I shouldn't say westernizing, perhaps I should say liberalizing trend in China. As their country grows wealthier and more middle class, they become more reliant on the boons of their economic engagement with the West. And in addition, they become more global. The wealthier a population is, the more likely it is that they might travel the world. Do you have any idea how many wealthy people's children go to America for education? Do you think China would want to wage war in a country where fully like 2 million people on the West Coast are first generation Chinese immigrants who are all at like UCLA or Berkeley or whatever? You know, like that engagement allows. Do you have any idea how much Iran could soften if Iranians and Americans could easily travel between each other's countries? I'm not saying it would be easy or happen overnight. I'm just saying that like economic engagement, cultural exchange, the people of Iran don't hate America that much. Like the people of Iran are weirdly disproportionately okay with America compared to a lot of other Middle Eastern countries. Maybe because of shit involving like bitterness that the Islamists won after after the revolution. Incorrect. The shock therapy was entirely Russia's doing it on its own. The Russians were incredibly arrogant. What are you guys doing? What do you mean? No? Wait, a fleet of Western business interests, politicians, and venture capitalists went over to the former Soviet Union and facilitated and like involved. They were like ripe for the taking. The Russian oligarchs were arrogant, but they were the ones who got all the wealth. We overlooked a lot of those. What do you mean? Why are there neocons in chat? What have I done? We can't negotiate with Iran. They are scary sand people. I am smart American.